Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we begin, love to always connect with each and every one of you. So do us a huge favor, jump into the chat either on YouTube, if you're joining us over there on YouTube, thank you, or on Facebook. Jump into the chat right now. Tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us one thing that you're excited about that you feel life and momentum on. We've got Joan joining us from Bakersfield. How's it going, Joan? Just as you're making it into the room, I always say hello to everyone. And I always want to not just be a talking head, but always want to interact with you guys. Do me a huge favor as well. Go ahead and like this post and share it. Just tell us Facebook and YouTube that we are doing a good job. There's Christopher, who's joining us from Augusta, Georgia. Welcome. Let's see. We've got Decky from South Africa, Johannesburg. Welcome. Joan says, excited about all the possibilities. Excellent. Who is joining us from? Lynn from San Diego. Welcome, Lynn. Anybody else like to say hello really quickly? Just tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about today that you feel life and momentum on. We're getting ready to jump in, but I want to make sure that I'm saying hello to everyone who's joining us really quickly. And if you have not been with us over the last couple of weeks, I actually started a series about 2 weeks ago called Coaching the COVID Funk. What is this series all about? Well, the series is really about the fact that COVID's probably been around, about a year and a half, a little less than a year and a half now. And obviously it's impacted and it's changed a lot of people's lives. A lot of people were probably at the beginning stages of this thing thinking, you know what, this thing's going to blow over, right? What did people say? Wash your hands for a couple of weeks, stay home, and make sure that you keep grandma safe or something like that. And then it's stretched on and on and on and on to the point that a lot of people have not recovered. And I'm not talking about from actually catching COVID, talking about recovering in their lives, and they're actually building something really meaningful, sustainable. I would say that probably most people, if you were to say, hey, take me back to where you were in your life about a year and a half ago. Are you, personally, professionally, all of those things, are you doing better than you were a year and a half ago? Probably the vast majority of people could not answer that with any kind of a positive notion about anything, because most people would say, I don't really know where I'm at on this thing. And so what we're really seeing is that a lot of people have kind of gotten stuck in the COVID funk. And I'll bring you back in time to what we talked about last week. Last week, I showed you this. And really what this is it's the transition curve. We can also call this the change curve that you see right here. So if you weren't here last week, I'll just try to help you remember what it was. Whenever there is a change, and in this respect, it was COVID. As soon as COVID hit, you know what the first response was? A little bit of anxiety, a little bit of people kind of not really knowing how to take it, any of those things. But what it ended up leading to pretty quickly is denial. That's where everybody probably lived for quite a while there, is living in denial. Now, when you see the change curve, and I'm not the inventor of the change curve, or you can call it the transitional curve, really what you have is that you have this XY axis. Time is here and state of being is here, so that when things happen in our lives, generally speaking, when there are changes, when there are changes that are positive, changes that are negative. Because when it comes to transition, we're either choosing that transition because we want something different, or we are transitions actually being chosen for us. We lose our job, we have to move, someone in the family dies, we get married, we get divorced. There's all of these different things, and some of those transitions are positive and some of them are negative depending on what's going on. And so what you really see on this XY axis is this thing is your state of being, not just emotions, but emotions are a really big part of it. And the other side is time, because what you usually see with people is that over time, something happens. But sometimes people get stuck in the process. And that because of where they are in their emotions, where they are in their state of being, and how they're actually seeing each situation, because what I would say is that each one of these stages has a lens behind it. And some people will say in this transition stage that there's about 6 or 7 or something like that. I've broken it down really simply for our purposes to just simply 5, in the understanding that the vast majority of people are right here in this stage right now, which I'm going to call COVID funk. And what do we do with people to help them move? Because where are we heading? Well, hopefully we're heading up here, moving forward. But a lot of people are not moving forward. A lot of people might have even gotten to acceptance, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is a forward movement, because you know what? They're still in COVID funk stage. So what I'm going to try to do over the next few weeks is I'm going to help you look through what are some of the most common sticking points right now that we're seeing, and how do we actually help people move forward so that they're not stuck in COVID funk, and that they can actually get into problem solving, thinking about their life and what they really want, and ultimately move forward. Let me say hi to a couple more people in here really quickly. There's Giovanni, who says from Dallas, saying excited about learning and improving my skills. Got Dr. Weems from Cleveland. We also have Shell from Las Vegas. Christopher says, I'm excited about change. And let's see, who else do I need to say hello to? Francis from South Carolina. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is specifically in this idea of motivation. And if you're like me, you've probably heard this many, many times. I mean, just go ahead and throw it in the chat even right now. How many of you have either heard or you've heard someone say, maybe you said it yourself, I just don't have any motivation? How many of you have either said or you've heard someone say, I just don't have any motivation, or since COVID, I've just lost all motivation? How many of you have actually heard that? Go ahead and throw that. I know that you guys are like 30 seconds behind me, but how many of you have actually heard someone say, I just don't have any motivation? It's very common. It's something that we're actually hearing a lot of. And you know what that's telling me? That's telling me that someone's deep in COVID funk. That tells me that someone who is not motivated is not going to be in the right place to actually problem solve, change their life, and actually move forward if they're literally standing in a place where they have a lack of motivation. I'm going to show you 4 keys today to motivation. We're going to focus on one of them heavily, because the other 3 I'm going to have to actually develop over the next couple of weeks, because there's some of the things that I said that I would talk about when we started. Joan says, I have heard it and said it. Thank you so much. Shell says, I have said it in the past and hear people say it now. Lynn says, I hear people say that all the time. All right. So thanks for all of the honesty in there and everything. So let's talk about how we address it. First of all, what we have to understand, one of the big points of motivation, for all loss of motivation, not just COVID loss of motivation, we have to ask people what's most important. Why is it really important? So if I've got a client, if I've got somebody who is stuck and they have no motivation, one of the big key points of motivation, because here's what would be true. If you hear anybody say that, if you called anybody up right now and asked them about where their level of motivation is, and they tell you that they don't have any motivation, follow that question up with, tell me what's most important in your life right now. What are the 3 most important things in your life? Do you know what's most important in your life? See, because here's what ends up happening in people's lives as they go along. And let me see if I can skip ahead to one of my slides, because I believe that I described this a little bit. That way you can actually see it on the slide. Because see, the thing is that you can't really have motivation without a why. And what do I really mean by you can't have motivation without the why? What I think a lot of people have done, because we're just really busy human beings. We're doing a lot, we're working and everything else. See, what I really believe is that COVID stopped people from pushing through, and now it's shown them the fog that they've lived in. I mean, let's face it, people do their same routines every day without a whole lot of thought to it. They do what they've got to do. It's a survival instinct. So they get kids ready, they send them to school, they go to work, They do everything that they've got to do in work. They take their breaks when they're supposed to take breaks. They do everything that they're supposed to do in their life. And they usually come home from work and they have like an hour or two, maybe with their kids. Of course, their kids are going to be doing homework. Then they got to get kids in bed, and then they start their day all over again. And people have routines all over the place that are along these lines. Now, here's the thing, is that people sometimes, because they have responsibility functioning in their life and they have things that they got to get done at a certain point, I think that a lot of people don't sit down and take the time to actually think about, what do I actually want in my life? What's most important in my life? And see, COVID having to stop, and some people losing their jobs, and some people having a lot of job transition and life transition, and them seeing their kids all day and trying to figure out what they're going to do. There's all of this stuff that suddenly they realize that they have probably lived in a fog for some time now and haven't even asked that question. As a matter of fact, I would say that probably 90-something% of people do not know what's actually most important in their life. It's probably true for some of you right now. If you're still struggling with this thing, you may not know what's most important. Questions like even this: why do I do what I do? Because I believe that some of those questions popped up. I saw some people change some of the things that they do in their lifestyle. They're probably asking, why do I always do this? Why do I spend so much time doing this? Why am I operating like this? Why am I stressed out over something that I would never give my life to? How did I end up here? There's all of these questions that start popping up. What do I have to show for this? This is a big one that's popping up. People who have given their whole lives to certain aspects of their life, and they've watched it get unplugged over the last year and a half or to change. And now they've got to ask that question. What do I have to show for this life, for this career, for this family, for this marriage, all of these things? See, what happens is that when you're taken out of your routine, your regular job, some of those places that kind of shield you, kind of insulate you from actually feeling things and thinking about things, now you finally have a rude awakening that I really don't know what's most important in my life. What else though? Well, COVID also makes us ask the questions. Why do I do what I want to do? Oh, wait, I was wondering why my slide did not advance, but it was something wrong with my road. Does what I do really matter? Is a really huge one that I believe that people have a question about. And here's the thing, is that they're not bad questions. What we have to understand is that every one of us should have been asking these questions at some point in our life. And I don't know that any coach or any human being has ever sat with us to actually ask those questions. Have you thought about what's most important to you? Have you thought about what your why really is? And COVID's made these things come to the surface. And so here's the interesting thing about it. When this is the way that things work when it comes to what's most important, I call those values. I talk about those things pretty extensively in our advanced skills training because it is one of the major driving mechanisms in a person's life is what you value, what's most important to you. If you know what your values are, if you know what's most important to you and you're not living into it, then it's going to cause pain. If you do not know what is most important to you and you're just trying to live your life, there's going to be pain. Because at a certain point, if you're just trying to just like work a job and make money, and then at a certain point, you're like, why am I even doing this? This is not thrilling. This isn't my passion. This isn't anything. See, this is what ends up happening is that for a while, people can go really fast and not know why they're doing it. And they don't know what their what is. They can go for as long as they can go. And unfortunately, but I would also say the blessing of COVID is that when you get unplugged and you start taking stock of your life, this is actually a time to change. But see, restarting, because a lot of people don't want to hear a word like restart. They don't want to hear a word like change. They want their life to come back. I would say that some of those people are still in the denial stage, and they may not be ready to even be coached or to do anything about their life. But there are some people who want to get some semblance back in their life of a flow, of I'm building something and all those things. And so restarting means that we have to help our clients get clear about what matters most. You need to know what matters most to you. Your clients need to know what matters most. They can't simply go through the motions again. See, because this is how everything snuck up on us. There's some people who've done really amazing during COVID. Part of the reason why is they already knew what was most important to them. And so they were able to just shift and they were able to make modifications. And yes, they might have gotten frustrated in the beginning and everything else, but they were able to look at what's going on and they were able to align with what's most important to them. And so what we've got to do so that this person doesn't get stuck in this place again is that we've got to help them get clear about what's most important to them, get clear about what their why is, so that they're not just simply going through the motions again. We don't want people just getting busy and taking on activity. We want them to actually thrive. Moving on can't happen until there is certainty in an individual's heart of why they do what they do. It's critical to have somebody get to moving on. This is one of those times where a person literally has to have certainty in their life to move on. And so this is one of those keys. Again, I can't have motivation in my life until I know what is most important, because your why drives what we do. See, like if I know what my why is, and I would tell you that I have coached people, I've worked with people. I literally have messages coming in the past week from CEOs and different people who have to find their why again. That's where their mojo lies. And once they figured out what their why is, then all of a sudden they were on a trajectory again. Like even people who during COVID have actually thrived financially have had these very things start to come up in their life because they're questioning these things all over again. The pause of COVID can actually help us help people, but we need to know where to look. And this is the first place that we look. We've got to start with why. We've got to help people uncover what is most important to them. Now, for 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to hit these really quickly because I need to unpack these over the next couple of weeks, and I don't expect to be able to do justice to them. So I'm going to hit the high points of these things really quickly. What we have to understand as well is that loss of motivation equals lack of autonomy. And so we're really saying is that when people lose a semblance of control in their life, they lose motivation. Think about it in your work. If you're ever told what to do, if you're never able to use your brain, if you're not trusted to do something, if you've had power taken away from you, if you've had responsibilities taken away from you, if you've been forced to take on responsibilities that you really didn't want to do, all of those kinds of things. Think about in your life where you do not have autonomy, where you do not have control in your life, there is a lack of motivation in those areas. Because we are wired as people with an active will going on in our life, and we want to choose. And so a lot of people still feel like I don't have an ability to choose anything. I'm a victim. I'm just stuck. I literally had somebody in the past week, CEO of a company, who told me that they were stuck. Now that's a pretty hard, that's a pretty big word. I was like, well, what do you mean by stuck? Because that's a lens. If I see myself as stuck, then I'm going to see myself as having no power. And as a result, I'm going to have a lack of motivation if I think that I can't do anything about it. I'm going to have to unpack this one in the next couple of weeks. But the simple thing is that people have to regain a sense of control in order to get motivation back. Here's 3. Loss of motivation is just simply a lack of personal growth. When people are not able to see in their life that they are better, that they are improving, that there is growth in their life, then there's a lack of motivation that happens. Now, what happens during COVID is a lot of times things that people were actually working really, really hard on came to a stopping point. It stalled out. It leveled out. Sometimes things, they literally lost it, some things that they worked on, but a lot of people had to pivot and they had to change what they were doing. Some people had some great things that were working in their life. And like I said a while ago, most people that you talk to, if you said, hey, are you doing better after COVID than before it started? Most people would say, no, I'm not. I'm doing worse. And they can point to the various losses and different things in their life. When people feel like they got punched in the gut and they lost, then what ends up happening is that there is a lack of motivation. So what we have to do as coaches is that we've got to help people have a tangible sense that they are doing better. Not fluff, But here's the thing, is that if we help people understand what's most important in their life and help them get a grasp on what they have control over, and then we also help them have some benchmarks, some real measurement in their life, not arbitrary feelings. Like sometimes people are like, well, I feel like my life's just falling apart. Well, is it really? I mean, you can feel like that, but if you looked at most people reasonably have their life together. They might have one area of their life that all of the focus is going on, but 95% of their life's actually amazing. It's all about the lens by which people see things and how they weigh things out. And so we have to get people out of subjective feelings and get them to objectively qualify what's most important in their life and quantify those things in their life so that, again, they can see the progress that they're making in their life. Here's what I would argue for. I think that probably everybody who's hearing my voice right now is actually doing better than you were before COVID. You've learned things about yourself. You've been working on yourself. You've been developing yourself. There are certain aspects that I could see in your life are probably more happening than they ever were. Some of you are have a much better marriage than you did before COVID, because you've had to spend a lot more time and now you're talking. Some of you have a higher value for your kids or maybe your family than you did, or even your friends than you did a year and a half ago. So that now that this has become a very precious part of your life, that now you're actually circling around it and you're protecting it and you're actually working in those things. Some of you are more loving than you've ever been. Some of you are more peaceful, more joyful, all of those things that you could actually, if you were able to look at your life and say, compared to where I was a year and a half ago, if I'm objective, I can look at these various categories and I can say, no, I've actually grown. Maybe my bank account hasn't necessarily grown. Maybe I've been fearful in some other areas and I haven't lived my best life, but you could probably, all of you say, hey, you know what? I've actually grown. I've worked on myself and I've thought about those things. This is what we have to do with our clients. Here's 4 though. 4 is simply loss of motivation is the result of a lack of purpose. Everyone has to know what their end game is. Here's what I would say is that everybody needs a battle to fight. And I'm not saying like, I'm just going to war and I'm angry and whatever. I'm not talking about that. Every day. And I would say that when people got unplugged in the last year and a half, it was a good time for them to ask, what am I giving my life for? What am I giving my life to? If this thing can be unplugged and taken away from me, is it worth it to have put all of my eggs in one basket? Because I am expendable, or that career is expendable, or that this thing can change in a heartbeat. And so it's one of those bigger questions of, well, what am I living this life for? What am I giving my life to? What is the greater purpose? There's probably most people right now would say they have less meaning and purpose in their life than they did a year and a half ago. But you could also push back and ask that question. Well, if your meaning and purpose is only coming out of your livelihood, if it's only coming out of, and why do I focus on livelihood so much? Because it's where we spend the vast majority of our time every week. I mean, if you're talking about 40 hours at work, and most people still have another 10 that you could probably add on top of it that involves getting ready, going to work, and a lot of other things. So you've got 50 of your waking hours, 5 days a week, that's keeping you from your kids. If losing that job would make you lose meaning and purpose, it may not have been a really big meaning and purpose. Like, it's got to be bigger than you. You've got to actually be able to have like, hey, and also I would say it needs to be much more inclusive than just your work life. Hopefully your meaning and purpose is a lot more inclusive of your other relationships, of other aspects of your life. Hopefully we can help people come into a little bit more holistic living with regard to all of this. And to really, because here's the thing, is that if your meaning and purpose can be taken away from you for a health reason, for a job reason, or anything else, I have to question whether that was really the meaning and purpose over your life, or if it's a great enough meaning and purpose. You know, those are the kinds of questions and the pushback that we have to give our clients. And so what we really have to do is that we have to help our clients believe they are living a life of meaning. All of this stuff is heavyweight kinds of things. They're big kinds of things. And this is an awesome opportunity right now to help people process these things. And here's the thing, is that if we can help them take hold of these things, and again, these last 3 points, I'm going to go into more detail on, well, how do you do that? How do you help somebody find their purpose? How do you help people figure out what's most important in their life? How do you help people get more semblance of control in their life when everything's chaotic. We're going to unpack that over the next few weeks because I need to hit those things because I can't just zoom past them. But what will happen is if we go after these things, and what we're really talking about is that this can be a really amazing pivot point towards the life that people want. Hey, this was going to happen to someone sooner than later, not necessarily COVID. Retirement happens to people. Loss of life happens to people. People move. At a certain point, there are certain transitions that happen in life that we do not choose. And this was a ticking time bomb for a lot of people with regard to their life because they're not thinking about these things. What we can do right now is that we can show up and we can help people pivot so that they can actually choose the life that they want. And ultimately, we want to see people move on, right? Let me pay the bills really quickly. This weekend is boot camp. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, you can get trained and certified in a single weekend this weekend at boot camp. A lot of you have, over the years, every now and then we'd have some people ask, do you guys ever do live training? And this is the live weekend that you can take part in. This is not a duplication of the Life Coach certification course. This is boot camp. So really what we're doing is that we're building upon everything that's in the Life Coach certification course, Life Coach training course. And here's some of the things that we're covering. We're covering what is coaching, the 4 lenses of a first-class coach, the steps of a coaching session, building a coaching framework that gets results, focused, effective coaching that cuts out the fluff, how to help your clients maintain motivation, 2 models of coaching, core skills and characteristics for breakthrough coaching, best practices for ethical coaching, how to ask powerful questions, how to build coaching relationships that last, and what to include in coaching agreements, and a lot more that we're going to be covering over this weekend. Yes, it is live. I know that we have a lot of programs that are completely self-paced. We start on Friday night with a 2-hour session at about a 40,000, 50,000 foot view. And over the next 6 sessions, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, that all conclude each with Q&As. We hone in more and more into the coaching competencies. Saturday night, we also have role playing. And so you'll actually get to either experience firsthand being coached or coaching someone, but you're actually going to be able to watch all of these things in real time. And then we'll finish up on Sunday night. You can take your exam on Sunday night, wake up certified on Monday morning. You do get replays for the next 90 days in case you can't join us for the entire weekend. The cost is only $247. It is an absolute steal. And in addition to that, you get everything that is included in the Life Coach certification course, which is a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com, which is a $75 a year directory service that you get access to. You also get your certificate, and you also get online access because we do have certification lookup for all of our students, and you're able to pull all of that into LinkedIn nicely or into any social media or into your website or whatever. Inside of the description of this video is actually a link over to Bootcamp so you can get enrolled. There's also a payment plan on there as well. If you're alumni and listening to me, there's an alumni discount. So you can actually do Bootcamp for $95 if you're alumni. So if you're wanting to upgrade your coaching skills, this weekend would be a great time to do that. Now, let me say this as well. For those of you who want business development help, we do have Jumpstart that includes boot camp as a part of that program. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment, and it includes our business development program. It includes almost every program that we offer, including Brand Camp, which is 13 hours of training on how to develop your marketing messaging, your website, search engine optimization. We cover everything on the marketing end. Also, Jumpstart, the 40 core modules give you the A to Z on how to build your business, how to build a 6-figure coaching practice. I know some of you need that kind of help. It also includes a live group coaching call every Wednesday where we go live with the students and we either give feedback on what people are working on or we answer any live questions that come on during that time. So both of those things are options. You could either jump into boot camp and get everything, or you can actually just you could jump into Jumpstart and get everything, or you can just do boot camp with us this weekend. Again, there's a payment plan for that as well. Let me see if there's any questions that anyone. What is the deadline to sign up? Oh, you can sign up anytime. Obviously, we start Friday night, so make sure that you get signed up there, and we will see you then. Oh, there's Santos joining us from Stockton. Thank you so much, Santos. Shell says, I agreed. I am doing better. That is awesome. Santos says, boot camp is really good. Thank you, Santos. I see that boot camp is a really solid foundation. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let me see if I need to say hello to anyone else. Bill said, this is very timely. People are in a malaise, confused, and lost. Yes, and it's a great opportunity for all of us because this is what we do. We help people find due north. Awesome. Anybody else like to say hello before we head out for the day? All right. Well, I am going to assume that is everyone then. Listen, do me a huge favor. Like this post, share it, give us a comment that tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. If you need to get trained and certified, this is a route to do it. And also you get unlimited replays for the next 90 days. So even if you can't join us live, you can still knock out your training and certification at your own pace. So you'll have access to all of those things. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.